Welcome back to the Wisdom from the Cradle series. Today I am joined by Genevieve, chanter, midwife, wife and new mother, and daughter of a priest. Genevieve comes from a family deeply rooted in the Orthodox faith and has kindly agreed to share some of her wisdom and experiences with us today. In this first part, we will talk about her early life and her journey as a chanter in the Orthodox Church, how her upbringing shaped her faith, what drew her to chanting, and what it means to give voice to the services of the Church. Genevieve, thank you for joining us. Let's begin. Is there anything you would like to open up with, like share about your background or...
Yeah, I'm one of 5 children, daughter to a priest, as you mentioned. But I don't think that's why I grew up so close to the church. My parents always made sure to tell us as children that we don't attend all the services and such, and we're not so involved in the life of the church because we have to be because our dad is a priest. We are because we love the church, and this is what our life would look like, even if we were, just lay people.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That's good.
I always appreciated that.
I mean, that's pretty much like the groundwork for even the raising your future children, not just Oliver, but, it's just like whether your husband, Tom, becomes a deacon or not, this is what we're going to do. This is our spiritual life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank God. So how was your Dormition fast?
It was challenging, but also beautiful. I love Dormition. It's probably maybe my favorite of the 4 fasts of the year because of the Parochlysis service.
Okay.
Because I love Parochlysis so much. This year was a little bumpy. Didn't expect it to be that way from the chanter stand. I thought it was going to be smooth sailing, but after the first evening, we found out it was not. So my brother and I did a lot of work on the service, and I think by the end we were doing okay. But it was also challenging because it was the first time that we've entered into a season of going to church every night since having the baby, and living so far from the church. I mean, not as far as you, of course, but it feels far compared to how I grew up across the street from the church. Traveling that far every day with the baby was a challenge.
When you're talking about there's like some bumps, can you go into detail about that? What were these bumps for this demonstration for you?
I think, really just in regards to the Parochlysis service is what I meant. I thought that I know the Parochlysis service very well. I've been singing it my whole life. My parents have been singing it to me since before I could sing. And since having the baby, I sing the Parochlysis to him a lot. It's one of my favorites. And so going into it, I thought that we were all set. We didn't have any reason to go over the service. We didn't have any reason to look at the music. But we were working from different versions of the music and weren't sure who was going to sing what and what the speeds were going to be. And so the first one was a little rough. That was kind of upsetting, but we worked through it.
Legitimate winging it last moment.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, what were your thoughts about this project when you first heard about it?
I thought, how is he going to find anybody other than my siblings and I to interview? Yeah. Which so far,
that's
been borne out, yes. But I imagine that you'll go around to other Middle Tennessee parishes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want it to feel pretentious, I guess. Like, even the idea of setting myself up as somebody who has wisdom to share feels presumptuous and pretentious, I guess.
Well, just to save you from that, I'll say I'm the one who's saying you have wisdom to share. You could be like, oh no, this is just basic orthodoxy, It's your own fault that you don't know it.
Okay.
That'll kind of save you from that feeling of presumptuous. What are your earliest memories of your church life or prayer at home?
My earliest memory of my life actually involves the church. It's a very vague memory because I was very little, not not quite 2 years old, I think, close to 2. And I remember being at the Dormition Monastery, actually, up in Michigan. Yeah, it's a very shadowy memory, but my mother tells me about it. I was very little, but I would get up at 4 a.m, walk across the courtyard in the cold and the dark to the church all by myself, and I would sit on the feet of one of the nuns for the early morning service. Yeah, I don't remember all of that. Just remember the cold and their little children's garden. Yeah. Yeah, besides that, prayer at home was, I don't know, mundane for me.
Mundane.
You know? Yeah, although I've been hearkening back to my childhood memories recently having my own baby, because I'm realizing, I've got to do this stuff with him now. You know? For example, a few weeks ago, my mom was singing the prayer after the meals, like for thanks after a meal. And I had completely forgotten that we used to sing that after every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, in our home growing up. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to remember this stuff. I've got to do this with my son now. Because I guess I've lapsed a bit from that kind of stuff. But yeah, we did evening prayers together as a family. My parents would sing a silly song to summon us all from the different corners of the house. They would ring those little bells, little chimes. They'd always light incense. And we'd pray together. At the end, they would go through the list of family saints, and we'd each ask our saint to pray for us and venerate their icon. In the mornings, it was just my mom and us, of course. Before homeschooling, we'd say our morning prayers. And she had the morning prayers divided up so that each of us had something to read or recite, which was really good because it involved us.
Yeah.
And we each had little note cards with names of people to pray for, God family or extended family. We'd all read those aloud as well. And that was really nice, our own little piece of the prayers to take ownership over and participate in instead of just standing there and listening to Mama pray.
Yeah. Make sure the entirety of the family is involved.
Yeah.
Or as a family, stick together. Yeah, of course. So was there a moment you first felt that the faith was your own, not just your family's? Was it a gradual kind of growth into it, or was it an epiphany kind of moment?
As a younger child, it wasn't something that I ever questioned. It's, I don't know how to describe it to somebody who didn't experience it, but I guess maybe it's almost like speaking English, You don't question that there's another language that you could be speaking or you could be learning, because it's just a part of your identity, and how you live. And I think it felt that way. It did always feel very, very special to my family. It felt special to be the family of the priest. To grow up watching my dad take such delight in serving the church, and in performing the services. But then as a teenager, it was different, I guess. It didn't feel like my own. I didn't know. I didn't really know if it was. But I came back around.
It's good. That seems to be a thing of talking to some other, not interview wise, but some other cradle-Orthodox, where it's if it's not their parents, maybe it was one of their very pious grandparents or something like that, where it's just something they're surrounded by, and it becomes such second nature. The idea of having something outside of it was just incomprehensible for them. So
yeah, exactly.
So what was the Orthodox community around you like growing up? I guess maybe before Tennessee, and then.
Oh yeah, I don't have many memories of it before Tennessee. And I know it was different than our community here. Yeah, I mean, my parents' memories of their time in seminary was it was a hard time, but there was a lot of grace during that time as well. And it seems like a lovely little community because you're surrounded by people who are somewhat set apart, I guess, from the body of the general Orthodox faithful across the country, because these are people who have chosen the priesthood, or I guess the priesthood has chosen them, they say. They know that this is their vocation, and it asks more of you. And on the day-to-day level, these are people who are deeply committed to the church, who want the church to be the first thing in their life, and so they're living that way. So you're fasting all together. You're attending all the services all together. I guess there aren't really varying levels of commitment to the church or varying levels of the importance that the faith takes in your life at seminary. You know, you're all deeply committed and you're all doing it together. So that seems really special. And I have friends who are in seminary now, and it sounds like that's been their experience as well. So very, very supportive, you know, to be surrounded by so many like-minded families. Yeah, and then after that, we were at a larger church, and I don't have many memories there, but they're good ones. They're good ones. Yeah, I remember people from there. You know, I loved them. I remember my Sunday school class. I was the only girl with 7 boys. I thought they were so dumb.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was 3 years old. Okay, I was 3 years old. Yep.
So what you remember from your time growing up, did you have any particular role models, you know, priests, monastics, or other like lay people? Anything you would like to share about them?
Yeah, there was one nun in particular named Sister Martha. Every summer we'd go with some of the other seminary wives and their families while the seminarians were, I don't know, they had something to do during the summer. And we would go to the Monastery of the Transfiguration in Pennsylvania. And Sister Martha was a young nun. I think she may have been the youngest at the time. And I just wanted to be just like her when I grew up. And at the time, I thought I was going to be a nun. My mom sewed me a little habit costume, and I would go around the house dressed like a nun. Yep. But I guess I didn't quite put together that, you know, if you're a nun, you don't have a family, because I would be wearing a monastic habit with a baby doll strapped to my chest. Bit of a scandalous look, maybe, but I didn't realize. Yeah, I loved Sister Martha. I loved the nuns. It was probably my favorite place as a young child to be. It's a lovely monastery.
Is she still around, or is she?
Well, funnily enough, she was a 12-year novice, I believe, and from age 18 until she was 30. When she was 30, she actually discerned a different call for her life, left the monastery, and is now married with 3 daughters. So, I guess she can continue to be a role model for me, I guess, since now our vocations align again.
It's an interesting turn.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it almost reminds me of The Sound of Music. You know, Maria?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure she's...
Just for the audience, I don't watch Sound of Music, okay?
No, his eyes lit up. He said, yes, of course.
All right. No comment. One of the ways you've served the church is as a chanter. Can you tell me how that began?
As a child, I wasn't part of the chanter stand, but I remember, occasionally joining for services during Lent or evening services where there weren't very many people and weren't very many chanters. I remember doing a specific part of the Great Compline service in Great Lent that my sisters and I would join the chanter stand for. But I didn't aspire to be a chanter. It wasn't a particular love of mine, and I would join on and off, little bits here and there, I guess, as I grew up, but never strongly committed. But I always sang in the choir, but I wasn't comfortable at the chanter stand. I was very nervous. And just didn't felt like I belonged there, which honestly is really still true. But I think I started chanting most regularly during COVID, when it was just my family. Because most churches, at the very beginning were trimmed down to, the priest, a couple of altar servers, and a couple of chanters. And for my family, all of those are within our family.
Yeah.
We have altar servers and we have chanters. So we were doing all of the services for Lent. And that continued for quite a while. So I guess I've basically been full-time or regular at the chanter stand since that point.
Okay. Do you feel like y'all grew more connected during that COVID time where it was just y'all serving together like that? Whereas you and your sisters, and your brothers, and, all of y'all doing these services consistently with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I know that for my parents especially, it was a harrowing and horrible time, but at home, it was wonderful because, at that point, we're all young adults and teenagers, and we're pretty scattered. We all live together at that point, but we're always doing different things. We're at college, we're with boyfriends, we're out, we're in, and we're rarely together as a family. And then all of a sudden, everything shuts down. We're together as a family all the time. And that was really sweet. There was a real sweetness to that in the midst of the struggle. And it was really sad. Especially Pascha. Pascha, I think, was tricky because it was just us, alone. And that's never how an Orthodox Christian should experience Pascha. It was beautiful that we were together, and I thank God for that. But I remember us stepping away from the live stream and crying after the service, So, yeah, beautiful, sad,
So, like you said, it wasn't something you sought out to do, but it's sort of kind of like thrown upon you, I guess, in a way, like you're voluntold. So.
Yeah, I guess. I really don't feel that, that it's where I belong. I don't feel that I'm musically gifted. I mean, I can do it. Usually. But yeah, my older sister was always the one leading. My younger sister's also very musical. And I felt just kind of pulled along because they were nice, because they wanted to do things together. And then when my older sister moved away, it left a vacancy at the chanter stand. And that was filled-ish, with people who are new and learning. And so I really felt like I needed to commit to helping out. Yeah, but really not because I'm musically gifted, but because I'm cradle, because I grew up singing the services, so I know the services, I know the routines, just to kind of help people along who I guess didn't know them as well.
So what was the hardest part about, one, learning the actual chanting, and then essentially taking it head on where you're kind of up front,
it's silly. It really is. But it's, I'll never sing. Okay. This sounds really petty. Okay. But I'll never sing as well as my sisters. And they're not here and I am, so I'm singing. But I'll always have that, I guess that sense that I don't belong and that there are people more qualified who should be doing this. So I guess, yeah. I really feel like at the root of it is pride, because I'm just always thinking about what other people are thinking of me. But I say that's been the biggest struggle. I'll always be hearing my sisters in my head and always comparing myself. And I'll never be as good, but that's okay. I'm okay with that now because I'm here. Something needed to be done, and I'm doing it most of the time. And I'm what we've got, I guess.
Maybe I should have done this at the beginning. Can you describe the difference between what a chanter does and what somebody in the choir is required to do?
Yeah. Okay. So the choir is communal singing. So for many of the hymns, example for the Divine Liturgy is done fully by the choir, not by the chanters. The choir sings choral pieces, 4-part pieces all together. So you're singing a part. You're one voice. You're not singing by yourself, except for the odd verse here and there. And you're just one voice amongst the multitude. But for, I guess, basically all of the other services, Vespers, Matins, all the various services during the fasts and feasts, it's the chanters at the chanter stand, and that's Byzantine chant, which we use at our church, and that's the 8 tones and the variable text. It's music that's always changing, to honor whichever saint or feast we're celebrating. And it's a smaller number, I suppose, the chanters, than the choir. They're usually 4 to 6 of us, I'd say, at this point. And there's a lead chanter, the protosaltus, who delegates, the various hymns or texts to be chanted.
Okay. And so I guess the chanter, they're one voice doing like a hymn or whatever, and then it goes to the next chanter. And
yeah, it's more often singing something on your own in one of the tones. Yeah, because it's not choral music. We're not all singing together.
I know plenty of people who are kind of intimidated by doing something like that. It's very easy to just sort of blend in with the crowd, like in the choir. Was that ever something you had to deal with, like that, almost like stage fright?
Yes. Oh my gosh, always.
Yeah.
And even now, still, often, not all the time, but yeah, goodness, for all my life, anytime I would be at the chanter stand, I'd be so nervous, so embarrassed. Because you're on your own, I guess, and I wouldn't want to do the more complicated or more hymns that felt more significant, because I didn't know them as well. And I guess I got over it somewhat, but I'll still feel it every now and again. And it's not that I've gotten that much better. It's that I guess doing it enough, repeating it enough. I just realized, I'm probably going to mess up. Probably not going to do it perfectly. Definitely not going to do it as well as it could be done. But here we are. Just got to do it. Yeah. I guess I just got tired of being nervous all the time.
Yeah, good. What does chanting mean to you personally? Like, what do you feel during that time, other than thinking about your sisters?
Yeah, it's really difficult for me to I guess, enter into prayer fully during the services when I'm at the chanter stand. It's a little bit of both. Because at the chanter stand, I'm blessed to be able to have the text in front of me. you know, so I can really focus in on the words. I'm not missing any words. And you can, I feel like I get a deeper look at the content of what we're singing than when I'm standing in the congregation. But also I am frequently caught up in my own distractions having to do with the chanter stand, you know, like it's not, you know, how the service is going or how it's being done or what should be happening or what's coming next or what I need to prepare for. So that's my constant struggle, I think, is to not allow, I guess, the technicalities of the service to distract me from worship.
Have you learned like ways in which that you can balance that technical side with the prayer side so you can get a little more prayer out of it?
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with being humble.
Yeah.
Like, and specifically letting go of the reins, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm usually not leading the service. You know, sometimes I do. But I'm usually not leading the service, but I always want to be kind of like the backseat driver, I guess. You know, like the current leader hasn't been doing it that long. And I have been chanting longer than he's been leading. So, okay, this sounds mean, but he's my brother. So I just have to say that. I have to say that he's my brother. I wouldn't say this about anybody else.
Okay.
So not that I know better how to chant. He's very musically gifted, where I am not. But I know how we do things, I guess. And I get really attached to, like, there's a St. Elizabeth's way to do it, you know, which is not necessarily true. And he maybe wants to come in and innovate, or what if we did this way? So for me to let go, you know, of the reins, which are not even mine to hold, and just do as I'm told, I guess. Yeah. Do as I'm told by my younger brother. So another layer to that. Yeah. But that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. And when I can do that, I can focus much more on what I'm supposed to be doing, which is pray.
Speaking of which, has there ever been a particular hymn or service that really kind of like hit a bit deeper when you're chanting? Like something that kind of like stood out or made you kind of like connect a little more deeper with God?
I remember one service, and this was a long time ago. I think I was 16. And when I was 16, I was just starting college because I went early. And I was really so caught up and anxious about like what my path was in the world. I was desperate to find out what I was supposed to do. And I was really untethered to the faith at that time. I was holding it very loosely, and, you know, doing the typical boring, questioning everything, blah, 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 whatever, that lots of teenagers do, you know. It's not a special rebellion. But it's normal, you know, to question the things that you've just taken as gospel your whole life. Anyway, so 16 felt like I was in such turmoil. I was also experiencing a deep depression. And I remember one day I was just really trying to work all of this out, and really feeling so upset at not knowing where my life was going. And I felt like I needed to know. Anyway, so went to Vespers. I'm feeling awful. I'm feeling so upset. And, you know, having all my little feelings about God, are you even there? You know, what even is the church? You know, all that silly stuff. But genuine, you know, these were actual feelings of mine. And I was about to walk out. We're singing Lord, I've Cried.
Yeah.
I was about to walk out. I decided, okay, I'll wait until he finishes sensing that I'm just going to leave and go home. I can't stand to be here right now. And then, Lord, I've Cried, we sing the verse, of Psalm, I think at the very beginning of Psalm 141, when my spirit was overwhelmed within me, then thou knewest my path.
Oh, yeah.
And I wasn't even listening.
Yeah.
Okay? I wasn't even listening. And then that just kind of like smacked me upside the head. And I got full body chills. I was like, what? My spirit is overwhelmed within me.
Yeah.
Right now. That is exactly a perfect descriptor of what I'm going through. My spirit is entirely overwhelmed within me. But yeah, it just felt like a little bonk on the noggin, I guess, that he knows my path. Yeah. Yeah, that felt really.
So that was your moment of like, okay, step aside of my own, because I'm getting in my own way. Yeah.
Exactly. He knows my path.
Looking back, when you first start, like when you're growing up, and then now that you're, more steady in serving as a chanter, how do you see that shaping your spiritual life today? I
feel grateful for it. I think because I do get such an inside look at the services, I guess. And it really, I feel like I don't always know what my place is at the church, like our particular parish. Yeah. And this is a gift that this is one of my places for now. This is something for me to do. And yeah, it's just, I'd say mostly that, a way to engage more deeply with the services and with the life of the church. It's important to me to attend as many of the services as I can. And this is another little pull to come to church, if I'm expected at the chanter stand. Yeah.
Obligation.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. So what advice, given that you struggle with this feeling of, the intimidation and the feeling of like unworthy, unqualified, what advice would you give to a convert or even a cradle who feels the same way, but wants to possibly pursue being a chanter?
I think that you should practice a lot and try to learn. Because I don't think it always works for you just to come to the chanter stand, because it's Byzantine chant is, it's a little foreign to our Western ears. If you didn't, most of us grew up listening to, traditional scale of Western music, and Byzantine chant is different. Not that it's hard to learn. Not that at all. But I think if you just show up at the chanter stand and open your mouth and expect chanting to come out, then I don't think it's necessarily going to work. I mean, yeah, maybe for some people. That's not my experience. But yeah, I think working on it a lot on your own time and working with the other chanters, outside of the services, I think that has the benefit both of having, helping you actually learn, and also getting you familiar with chanting so that maybe when it's time to do it in the service, you won't be as nervous, or as intimidated. And then also just starting slow, just ask the priest, of course, and the protosaltus if you can join for a vespers and sing a couple verses, or just read a psalm just to start. You don't have to, you're not expected to sing the longest, most fancy hymn,
right,
when you're just starting out. But also, don't get in your own way. If this is a way that you're being called to serve the church, then, listen to it and do your best, and don't make it all about you. And let me know if you figure out how to do that.
All right. So some people like a book or maybe like a recording or something like that. Is there any in particular you would suggest for a beginner?
Yeah, I used to listen a lot, like every Vespers, every Saturday on the way to Vespers or during the day before Vespers, I would listen to a recording of Lord, I Have Cried on YouTube. Actually done by chanters at our own church. But that was helpful because it was, the music that I was actually going to be about to be singing in the style that we sing it. Yeah, I think the channel is called Orthodox Chanting 101, I think.
Okay.
And it's on YouTube. Yeah, and that was really helpful for me. Yeah, just to sing along with, and read the music as I go, the music from the Antiochian website. Yeah.
All right. So some people have favorite tones, something that kind of resonates with them. What about you?
Yeah, I have favorite tones to listen to and then favorite tones to sing. My favorite tones to listen to are probably tone 5 number 1 and tone 3 number 2, but only if it's done well, and I cannot do it well. So tone 3 is also sort of my least favorite tone.
Right.
Because when I know it's coming up, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest one for me. I cannot sing it well. And it's so beautiful. I don't want to butcher it, which I pretty much invariably do. Yeah, so those are the best to listen to, in my opinion. But for singing, probably tone 7.
Tone 7.
Yeah, okay. I love singing tone 7. It's fun, it's bouncy. I think it's called grave tone, which I don't know why, because it sounds pretty peppy to me. But yeah. I like tone 7. It's so fun.
Well, it kind of makes me think about like the lamentation service. Yeah, where it's like the first half, it's really like solemn, kind of sad. And then like, I don't know what part, but like halfway through, it just like completely flips. And now we're like very celebratory. Yeah. Like for the Dormition lamentation service, it was like, and I think it's the same with St. Lazarus's lamentations on Vespers. I think there's part of that as well. I don't know. Personally, that's one of my favorite services is the lamentations. Yeah. So I think you might have covered this earlier. Other than Pascha, is there like a very particular feast day hymn or service that has been especially meaningful to you?
I'd say the Parochlysis service, probably the entire Parochlysis service. Yeah, it's definitely up there among my favorites. Maybe my favorite. Yeah. And then the Feast of Theophany. As well. Yeah. There's not not a ton of, I guess, particularly special music for Theophany. I love the Theophany Troparion. But yeah, just the Feast of Lights, the feast in the midst of winter. Yeah, it was really special. Yeah, music wise though, I'd probably say Parochlysis.
Do you feel like that this part of your life as a chanter has prepared you for, marriage and then motherhood as well in any way, or it's been kind of not as deep of an impact?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess having to listen to somebody else. Yeah, I think that applies. It's funny. I always expected to take a break. There were many years. I've been singing in the choir since I was 11 and chanting, off and on. So not that long, but long enough that I was really looking forward to taking a break.
Yeah.
When I had a baby, because I was like, surely I'm not going to be able to manage chanting and having a little baby at the same time. Well, here I am with a little baby, still chanting, usually. Thank God for my husband and my mom, who usually help with the baby, but sometimes I have to nurse him, while I'm chanting. And thinking, this is really not how I expected it to go. I really expected to have to take a break from the chanter stand. And as the time approached, during my pregnancy, I wasn't looking forward to it anymore. For years, I've been thinking about this time when I won't feel obligated to sing in church because I'll have the responsibility of a baby instead. And I just really was, wanting a break and felt like I had been there for too long. But then I didn't want to. And it was especially the Parochlysis service. I had him at the very end of April, but I was already looking ahead towards the Parochlysis, and imagining August coming and my baby would be a couple months old. And of course I would bring him to Parochlysis, but I couldn't imagine not singing the Parochlysis service. So I sang the Parochlysis service. And I'm still chanting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thankful that I can. And thankful to find that I wanted to. Yeah. I always thought I'd be looking for an opportunity to stop. And that opportunity came. I said, I'll keep going a little bit.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm not really actually.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Yeah. So previously we talked about your early life in chanting. This conversation will be focused more on your vocation as a midwife, the spiritual and practical dimensions of that calling. So I'll just open up with, how did you first become interested in midwifery?
I've always really been drawn to babies, as many young girls are. Mm-hmm. As a little kid, I remember I think both my older sister and I would read my mom's old midwifery textbooks for fun, and for the pictures when we were little, because we were fascinated with them, and we just, we loved birth and were fascinated by it. My mom is a midwife as well. She didn't practice after she had us, except occasionally every now and then for a friend's birth. But she did it before she had us, and I saw two of my younger siblings being born. So I grew up more familiar, I guess, with birth, and specifically midwife-attended birth, than your average American little girl.
Yeah.
I guess. So it was always, something that was normal in my home, and always something I was drawn to. But I never thought I would be a midwife.
Okay. Was it a particular moment or an experience that really made you realize that was the path you wanted to pursue?
No, not one thing in particular. I grew up loving pregnant women and babies. I was always drawn to pregnant women. I was always secretly hoping that my mom's friends would invite me to their births with her. And that happened once when I was a young teenager. I think I was 14. Yeah. And I loved it. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. But still didn't think that I would be a midwife. I don't know. I thought my older sister would be. And I don't know, maybe I felt like it was hers, maybe more than mine. But as I went to college and was just learning what I was going to do, I was really drawn to mission work. Even not specifically related to the church, because there was a time when I, thought that maybe, I don't know, I wasn't sure where I stood with God. But I still felt called, on a humanitarian level, to the least of these. And so for a while, my plan was to complete my undergraduate degree, then go to med school, become a doctor, and do something like Doctors Without Borders.
Okay.
But I always really wanted a family. I always hoped to be married young and have lots of babies. And so I just didn't know how that was going to work. So many years of med school, so much money to make back. It didn't align. Also, the math and science, whatever.
Yeah.
But I was always drawn to the medical field, I felt. Always very interested in it. And honestly, it kind of feels like enough people told me I should pursue midwifery, or doula, some sort of birth work, that eventually I was like, this is exactly what I should be doing. Yeah, and I don't know why it took me so long to realize. I mean, I was young still, I wasn't...
This doesn't freak me out. I don't find it entirely gross, so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I really love it.
Do you feel like your upbringing in the faith played a role at all in that, like outside of your mom's influence, but like just the church in general?
Yes, because I think that within the church, we find the concept of sacred space, which I don't think we see so much in the wider Western, at least, world. Sacred space, and also the concept of mystery and moments where we're invited to maybe peek behind the veil just for a moment. I think that the church absolutely fosters those as part of her life, and that's exactly what I find in birth. So it's like the perfect synergy, between growing up in the church and growing up experiencing birth that way, not the obstetrical emergency, the sterile field and bright lights and beeping machines,
Families separated in one room.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
days. It's like,
yep.
Midwifery is such a kind of unique blend of science and skill and soul. So let's kind of talk about how that comes together. What does being a midwife actually look like on a day-to-day?
Lots of counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I guess there's a deeper relationship between a midwife and her client, pregnant mother, than between like an OBGYN and a patient. Because midwives look at the pregnant mother in a holistic way. We attend to her entire life. We counsel her on nutrition, exercise, relationship, spirituality, maybe, depending on the client and the relationship. But yeah, it becomes a very close relationship because this woman is choosing you specifically to be with her at the most intimate and harrowing moment of her life. And she's not assigned to you, like through insurance or because you're part of the practice, where she's been getting her well woman care. She's choosing you because she wants that relationship with you and because she knows that you would be the best support to her in that time, that time of intense need. So that allows for kind of a closer experience with the women. But the day-to-day, it's a lot of counseling. We do the medical stuff like, vitals and using a Doppler to listen to the baby's heartbeat and taking, blood work and IVs and whatever. And then there's being on call, which is also difficult because you're not, in a home birth practice, you're not working at a hospital. You're on call for your clients for a 5-week period, and they could have their baby anytime, and you have several clients at a time. So basically live your life on call 24/7, which is difficult. It's really difficult because you don't know when you'll be called. You don't know what you can plan. You don't know what you can commit to in your life outside of midwifery because at any time you may have to drop it and run to a woman's side.
You mentioned the medical side. What, like the relation with the OBGYN, what happens when maybe your opinion or your knowledge kind of conflicts with the OBGYN? What's your advice to that woman in that situation usually?
Well, typically a woman is only going to be referred to an OBGYN if something comes up during the course of her pregnancy that's outside of the scope of midwifery. Okay. So for us, our job is to determine who's a good candidate for a home birth, because you don't want a woman who's going to be higher risk to have a home birth because it's not safe. It's safe for low risk women. It's safer than the hospital for low-risk women who are healthy. So during the entire pregnancy, we monitor so closely to ensure that every woman stays low risk and avoid the possibility of an emergency at the birth. Makes sense. But if something comes up during the course of care, when we might need to refer to an OBGYN, because other than that, they wouldn't be seeing an OBGYN during the pregnancy.
Okay.
Unless something special comes up. And then often our opinions do collide. But all we can ethically do is provide our recommendation to the woman and practice informed consent, which is telling her the risks of such and such treatment or course of action, telling her the benefits, telling her the alternatives, and allowing her full autonomy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so much of, God forbid, pressuring them or
coercing
them to do something.
Yeah, that would be entirely unethical. Yeah, no, the woman's autonomy is at the forefront. It's incredibly important that she take ownership and responsibility and be given ownership and responsibility over her body and her baby and her birth.
What are some of the hardest challenges midwives face, like, spiritually, emotionally, like even physically, in regards to trying to help these women?
I haven't figured out yet how to overcome fear, fear of an emergency, fear of a bad outcome. Yeah. Because they do happen. They happen at a lower rate at home, so it's incredibly rare. It's much more common to see something happen in a hospital, where you're expecting some sort of adverse outcome. But I think some midwives have found a way to move past that. But it's always there, I think, the spirit of death, not in a freaky way, but the spirit of death I think, comes to every birth. Yeah. And yeah, but it's scary. It's scary. It's a lot of responsibility, but it's what you get, I think, for being allowed to step into such a sacred moment, such a thin place between life and death.
You haven't experienced, like you said, you haven't experienced like that kind of tragedy yet.
Yeah.
What about the midwives you've learned from? Have any of them ever like kind of, hey, this could happen, here's how you best prepare yourself for it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think different midwives have done better or worse jobs of moving past that in their own practice, because when something bad happens, then you can either do the work to heal from that yourself, and continue to practice diligently and responsibly, or you can see that event in every woman and baby, and always be expecting something bad to happen or looking for something bad to happen or acting out of fear, and I've seen both.
Okay.
And I think it takes a mighty amount of work to move past it. I do, but it's important.
Yeah. Besides the most obvious, the person you're supporting is the mother and the unborn child or children. Yeah. But is there a support the midwives provide for other members of the family? Like, maybe if they have other children or even the husband?
Yeah. I think that birth done right, whatever that means, is family-centered.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Because obviously the mother has the final say, in whatever happens, whoever is there. And the mother's experience is absolutely the most important. But it's a profound event for her husband, and if she has other children, for them as well. And yeah, it's a privilege to be invited to be part of that, to kind of step into their family circle, and invite them to circle around the mother. Because, they may have different levels of trepidation, or if they've been told a different story about birth. You know, I guess the common cultural view of birth is that it's terrifying and it's horrible and it's painful and it's bloody and it's an emergency. So, of course, that's a terrifying thing to undertake in your own home, you know, happening to the person that you love the most, your wife or your mother, for the children. So it's a privilege to invite them in to, help educate them somewhat, to talk through any of their fears or presuppositions or concerns, and kind of teach them to be the mother's support during birth, so that they can really feel like a part of the experience, and the mother can be supported by the people that she loves the most.
Do you feel like Western culture is kind of misconstrued birth giving in a very negative way?
100,000,000,000%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's a huge disservice to not just to women, but to everybody, because, you grew up fearing birth, and then when you have a wife, you're scared of birth, and she's scared of birth, and you're afraid. You don't even know what you're afraid of, but I guess ultimately you're afraid that she's going to die or the baby's going to die.
Yeah.
And it's such a negative portrayal of something that is so natural, designed to work, and so sacred. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a real missed opportunity, I think, a lot of the time.
So out of curiosity, have you ever had to deal with multiple birth?
Yes.
How was that compared to just a single birth?
It was triplets.
Triplets?
Triplets at home.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you know beforehand those?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh,
thank God. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? I saw an episode of Call the Midwife where that happened.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would have been so funny. Yeah, no, triplets at home. So, which is not to be taken lightly or undertaken casually. Twins can be done safely at home with proper monitoring during pregnancy to ensure that both twins are healthy. But a twin birth at home is really not more dangerous than a singleton, just one baby. There are just a couple extra risks to look out for and to be prepared to manage if they arise. Triplets, though, that's 3 babies. Yeah, it's a lot. So we had the top experts on breech and multiple deliveries in the country come.
Oh, wow.
And they were a part of her care prenatally. And she ended up in the hospital briefly, did some monitoring, but she just kept being healthy. The babies kept being healthy. They all looked great. They were doing wonderfully. And so we planned for a home birth. I was only assisting, I would never undertake that by myself. But yeah, we had a midwife who goes all over the world with Doctors Without Borders and has delivered hundreds of breech babies, hundreds of twins, several triplets. So she was in very good hands. This wasn't just, just your average home birth midwife. And then 2 midwives on top of it, several assistants. So we were well staffed. Yeah. Yeah. But it was incredible. It was incredible. This mother already had 5 children. Went from 5 to 8.
Oh, one day.
Yep.
That's amazing. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah, triplets at home, right? Who knew you could even do that? But she just had a baby, then she had another baby, then she had another baby. Yeah. Literally, that's
on this path. Have you had different reactions from like non-Orthodox when they heard you're, pursuing being a midwife versus maybe the Orthodox?
I don't think so. No, I think there have been varied reactions within the church as well as outside of it.
Okay.
Because people come into the church and, they don't necessarily adopt a different framework for how they interact with the medical system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say I think our parish is particularly crunchy. So we have, I guess, we have higher than the national rate of home birthers in our parish, but that's just because we're the crunchy church. I don't know why.
How many women at our church have done home births? Do you know?
Maybe we have half a dozen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe more.
Mm. So, kind of want to get in now the actual spiritual dimension of this, this field. How do you see God being present during childbirth and the way that y'all are working in that moment?
Well, we can't do it without him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, for the mother and the midwives, really. I mean, there are so many times at a birth where, the only thing we can do is pray. Not because, we're in an emergency situation, it's out of our hands, We're equipped for emergencies. Obviously, prayer is part of that equipment. But more so in the woman's despair, and to use the biblical word, travail, in this great intensity, she learns that she can't do it through her own strength. And, having just given birth for the first time myself, I can't tell you how sincerely I mean it that you cannot do it on your own. I actually feel like I didn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure how to describe that, but I don't think we're meant to do it on our own without God. And I think that, it's an act of God that it even happens. But at the same time, it's the most mundane thing that's happening all over the world, every day. So many times. It's the most mundane and transcendent event. And as a midwife, I think, I can't imagine not praying at a birth, based on the mother's preferences. That may be in private. It's usually in private.
Yeah.
But I beg him for his help, and more often his mother, actually. I pray to the Theotokos a lot, the helper in childbirth. Yeah. I take that little icon with me in my pocket, and to Saint Olga.
Alaska?
Yes.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, she was the midwife. I credit her for the safe delivery of my son. And I frequently ask her to take my hands and work through me.
That's a very interesting new saint. For anybody who doesn't know about Saint Olga, please look her up. She's an incredible person. Her story is a very deep and incredible life. Yeah. Very hard. What has midwifery taught you about, patience, humility, sacrifice, different bits of the virtues?
It might be easy, I don't know, maybe first starting out as a midwife or, as an apprentice. I started out as an apprentice, of course. It can be kind of easy. I recall one birth where I had, been to several dozen births already. I had lots of skills. I felt like a valuable member of the team, and I kind of felt like I had a handle on it, and that this was such a fun thing to be a part of, getting to see babies be born and to be a part of it, and I guess kind of feeling valuable, almost like I'm needed, like I get to usher life into the world, which I don't. And that at that exact birth, there was a complication that occurred. And I had no clue what to do.
Oh, no.
Zero clue.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I was just assisting, and the midwife and the other assistant jumped in, and they had much more training, and they handled it perfectly, and everything was wonderful. But that rocked me because I realized I was not prepared for that. I wouldn't have known what to do. I feel like I do well in emergencies. I don't freeze up or panic. Usually I almost I don't know, it's weird to say that I like emergencies, but I don't know, I guess I like the adrenaline, and the instant decision making and acting. I considered being a paramedic briefly before midwifery because of that. But that birth humbled me and taught me that I didn't know anything and that it doesn't have that much to do with me. I'm not like the glamorous baby catcher, I show up and I help all these poor women who couldn't do it on their own. No, it's a privilege to get to sweat alongside a laboring woman and to support her in any way I can, which is not that much because ultimately she has to do it herself. And it demands sacrifice of you. You have to get up in the middle of the night, leave your warm bed and your sleepy husband and drive out to the middle of absolutely nowhere to be with a woman. And maybe it's a false alarm when you go back home. It's a lot. It's a lot of miles on your car. It's a lot of wear and tear on your body. Yeah. But it's a privilege, and if it gets too hard, you shouldn't be doing it. But it definitely calls for sacrifice. You have to leave events that you want to attend. You can't plan trips if you have a woman who's due at that time. So I think it's a sacrifice not only for a midwife, but for her family.
Yeah.
And I've thought a lot about that as I start to have children. I don't want my children to feel like they come second. But ultimately the family does have to sacrifice to have a mother who's always being summoned away, to other mothers. And I'm not sure what that balance is, and I hope that I find it.
I don't know what else you said, but you can ask.
No, it's fine.
Not whatever else.
So since the birth of your own child, have you returned to work, or are you still kind of recovery, or?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay.
I was going to a couple months ago, but anyway, just to assist another midwife, but the baby came too fast.
Yeah.
But I'm planning to go back in the fall, probably October, November. I'm gonna help at a friend's birth as a doula in October, and then I'll probably go back to assisting in November, and hopefully get my own practice off the ground slowly. Yeah.
So even though you haven't returned back to work, do you feel like your view of midwifery's changed since your own?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. My view of birth specifically, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I'll ever tell another woman to relax. I thought about that while I was in labor. I was like, I cannot believe I've said this to women. Relax? What? That's horrible. That's a rotten thing to say.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No. Yeah.
Science is golden. I can't now. I'm figuring it out.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Relax. No, there is no relaxing. I mean, you have to. You have to relax, but oh my gosh. Yeah. Don't tell anybody that.
Yeah.
Say something more constructive.
So, in those intense moments, do you feel like prayer is a little more natural? You don't need to put as much thought into like what you're going to pray about. It's just sort of like spur of the moment, or do you kind of still do like a formal type of prayer in that situation?
It's a lot of begging.
A lot of begging.
Yeah.
Okay.
desperate prayer.
What would you say to Orthodox women who are considering midwifery as a vocation? Or
Yeah.
just throw it out there, even non-Orthodox.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah. I think that you have to, I almost think that you have to want to do this more than anything. Not anything, but, I don't know. I almost think, I don't want to be dramatic about it, but I almost think you should try to say no. And see if there's anything else that that calls to you as a path. And if there's not, then trust that it's midwifery.
Okay.
But try to take God with you. Because you can't do it without him, I don't think. Don't want to know what that would look like.
Yeah. Like we were talking about earlier about how like the West in particular has like a different view of childbirth compared to like more traditional cultures. What would you want Orthodox families, especially converts, to understand better about childbirth and the role of the mother?
A few things. One is that for a mother who doesn't have other health concerns or other health issues, same goes for baby, that the safest place for that baby to come into the world is where the mother is most comfortable.
Okay.
And for most of us, that's at home, in our own environment, surrounded by the people we love, surrounded by the smells we love, surrounded by the germs that are our own.
Yeah.
I mean that. We're not meant to be born into a sterile environment. The baby's microbiome for the rest of their life is impacted by the environment that they're born into. And they should be born into what their family is familiar with.
Okay.
I don't know. That may sound a little funny, but I mean it. And that birth is meant to be holy. And it's holy, it's beautiful, it's intense, yes. But it's something that is designed to work. Your body is designed to know how to go into labor on its own without drugs. Your body is designed to produce the endorphins and oxytocin that help you bear it. And your body is designed to grow a baby that it can deliver, on your own without intervention, except in obvious rare cases. There's always that caveat. I don't know. Call me. We can talk about it.
So if you had to kind of sum up the heart of midwifery in one sentence or even a paragraph, what would it be?
Well, the word midwife means with woman. With woman. And that's why I think it's a work designed for women to do.
Of course.
Our husbands are great, and I wouldn't want to be without my husband during that time, but a woman instinctively wants to be surrounded by women. Women who have done this, women who know how a mother needs to be supported. There's something about the community of women with their sisters that we deeply need, because we know one another in a way that, there's always there are always some disconnects between men and women.
Of course.
Of course. We're designed that way.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be, thank God.
Yeah.
But in a time of need like that, a woman knows what you need.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, and we're meant to have that community, that sisterhood. And I think for me, I think I'm deviating from what you asked. I'll get back to it. But when I was giving birth, or even before when I was contemplating giving birth, and, the terror of what's ahead of me and the dread, which are real, I was so comforted by the thought that so many other women have done this. Almost every other woman has done this, has gone through it. Every woman in my lineage until me has done it. My mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great, all the way back. They have all done this. And until the past, 2 generations, maybe my mother and grandmother, they all did it at home.
Okay.
Naturally. So there's that too, that community of women that have done this, and therefore I can do it too. Okay, I know that somewhat deviated from your question. You said the heart of midwifery, but yeah, I think it's being with a woman through the whole transition, pregnancy, birth, and then entering into motherhood. I do think that's part of a midwife's call, as well, to support a mother in that transition.
Okay.
And to just walk alongside her.
Because you kind of see in the secular world pretty much where it's like, now it's not always like this, but like if the family isn't really all that active in helping her, the pregnant woman's almost kind of left to her own devices during that time. And I do wonder if maybe that's kind of a cause for why some women are just like one and done, and it's, it's like you're left at home by yourself. You're kind of, or God forbid, you actually have to go to work, do a 9 to 5 at 8 months, and it's just like almost no support from the family, almost no support from even coworkers and colleagues. And then on top of that, like you mentioned, you end up at some hospital with a bunch of noises and smells that are unfamiliar and people you don't know, poking and prodding. And I can't blame women who are just like, yeah, I don't want to do this again. It's
absolutely. Yes, you are entirely right. Yep. The root of all postpartum mood disorders, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, etc., is isolation. It's isolation. Yes, women are so isolated in motherhood, and we can't do it alone. Yeah, that's entirely true. Yeah, I mean, I would not want to repeat that experience either.
Yeah,
if I went through the conventional system, the way that we're told we're supposed to do it.
I think it also kind of points out, not to get too deep in social criticism, but the American nuclear family, I think, is probably one of the biggest lies of our culture, is like the nuclear family being this good thing. For thousands of years, we had multiple generations living in one household, or at least within walking distance of each other. So a woman who just gave birth would have, her mother, maybe her mother-in-law, sisters, whatever, cousins, who are at hand, able to help out.
Yep.
Whereas nowadays, it's like your parents might be multiple states away, and they're only going to see their grandchildren maybe a week at a time.
Yeah, and anybody who comes to visit wants to hold your baby and be entertained, and and all you should be doing is lying in bed and holding your baby. You shouldn't be hosting people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, we need to be surrounded and cared for during that time. Because the healing is manifold. It's physical, of course. It's a great deal to heal from. But also the emotional experience of having given birth, and then the baptism into motherhood, was never meant to be undertaken alone.
Yeah. So, is there any last words you have about midwifery before we finish this part of the interview?
mean, I don't want people to think I'm a fanatic. I thank the sweet Lord for the modern medical system, and I would never want to practice home birth in a place that was remote and far from hospitals. I fully rely on them when they're needed, but I don't trust the medical industrial complex to serve women on an individual basis. Care needs to be individualized, I believe in mothers having the final say in what's right for them and for their babies.
Okay. So in our final conversation, we'll talk about your own experiences of marriage and motherhood.
Let's kick the quarry.
Oh, wow.
The rock quarry.
That was perfect timing.
Motherhood. Da-da-da-da.
Da-da-da. In our first two conversations, we talked about your early life, your role as a chanter, and your work as a midwife. This part will focus on your life as a wife and mother, and what you've learned from through those experiences. Is there any info you're comfortable sharing just to start off? How old your child is, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I've been married for 2 years. Got married in May of 2023, and I had my baby April 30th. My little son Oliver. So he'll be 4 months next week. So he's 3 months and 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So has that time gone by kind of quick for you, or has it been?
Yes and no. It really has. I can't believe he's about to be 4 months. I feel like I still have a newborn. And at the same time, I can honestly hardly imagine my life before him.
Yeah.
I guess.
How did you and your husband actually prepare yourselves spiritually for marriage itself?
Let's see. Probably primarily by reading. We were directed to read some books. And that was really helpful. We also received premarital counseling, and that was helpful as well. And then we wanted to get married for so long. We're always praying about getting married. We wanted to get married. I remember I started to pray started to include Saints Joachim and Saints Peter and Feveronia in my daily prayers. At some point. When I knew that's what was ahead of us.
Well, how long was y'all's courting?
Gosh, it felt like forever. It was 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Sometimes.
Yes. Because after about a year, we were like, okay, let's get married now. But our spiritual father and my parents were like, let's not get married right now.
Right.
Yeah. And that was very difficult. It was very difficult. Yeah.
They want you to spend more time discerning each other.
I was very young.
Okay.
Yeah. I was only 18 when we started dating.
Okay.
And he hadn't even joined the church when the first time he asked my father for permission to marry me. So my dad was like, let's get you baptized first. I mean, he was a member, of course. He was a catechumen and, or honestly, maybe not even. But he was committed to the church, I guess. But my dad was like, let's do this in the proper order. Very reasonably. Yes, of course. And also because I was so young and because they knew, particularly my spiritual father, knew I had aspirations to go and do a lot of things. He wanted me to spend some time on my own. He sent me away, actually, for a while.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he told me I had to leave.
Oh, to see how y'all reacted.
He wanted me to have separation from my boyfriend, but also from my family.
Okay.
Yeah, which was very interesting because that's not how I was raised. My parents would have been perfectly happy to keep me in their home until I got married if I wanted that. they didn't believe in the modern American idea of like once you're 18, you fly the coop and you go out and make a way for yourself. But my spiritual father wanted me to, I guess, to have some experiences in the world.
Okay.
And kind of fend for myself a little bit. So I did.
How did you react to that for the first, like, going from being in a very full house to on your own? Kind of a shocking experience, or?
Well, I always wanted to leave. I thought I was going to go out and do grand things and travel the world and maybe drop by every 18 months or so to say hello to the folks, which is funny considering my life now. But, but I was ready. But I went, and I moved in with another family, so I was still experiencing a family life, just not my own.
It's not you, right?
Yeah.
After the wedding and finally moving in, what was those first few months like, adjusting to now you're living with somebody who, you're married too, but it's not somebody you grew up with. It's not somebody you know.
It felt it wasn't a difficult adjustment, but nor was it, I don't know. I guess I expected bliss, I guess I expected it to be very exciting.
Yeah.
But what it really felt like was the deepest contentment. It pretty much instantly felt like, oh, this is what we were supposed to be doing. This is exactly how it's always been meant to be, I guess. Yeah, this is how life should be. It just felt so right.
So that feeling of pressure, wanting to go do grand things and go into war zones and help give babies birth, and that kind of like went out the window a little bit.
It still tugs at my heart, and I wonder why I was given that desire, and then given my life as it is now, I guess, how it's unfolded. And of course, nothing's forever.
Yeah, of course.
But that's not a call of my husband's. Yeah, I don't know what purpose that was meant to serve in my development. Being given that desire, because it was so overwhelming when it first started. I was about 14, I think. And I continued to be pretty strong for several years. I guess until I met my husband. And it's still there, but I don't know how it will look, and I know that my first duty is to him and to my child and my future children. But I don't know. I pray that there will be some sort of fulfillment of that or opportunity.
So in that time, now, what has marriage taught you about, sacrifice, love, forgiveness?
Yeah, well, I haven't learned this, but I can at least say it, I guess, and keep saying it to myself until, I don't know, it really takes root. But, and this is still hard to say. I kind of have to grit my teeth a little to say it, but I'm the one who has to change, I guess. And I still don't, my heart still says, no, but he has this, and he has that, and these are behaviors that genuinely need to change, or these are things in him that I genuinely want to change, but me first.
Yeah.
And sometimes that feels so unfair. But, I think it has to be me first.
Kind of going back to the midwife a bit, also in your own personal experience. What role do fathers play in family life from your perspective, especially around childbirth and childbearing? Because, like we're talking about what the way the industry kind of portrays it, at least it's the husband's sometimes put in a completely separate room. So not even there to see the birth of their child. Maybe that's changed a bit now. But at least when I was growing up, that's how it was mostly portrayed. Nowadays, it seems like they're usually there. But again, they're off to the side, and then the doctors and nurses are usually just
terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that the deepest union possible of two humans is what results in a new life being created. And I think that unity is supposed to be reflected in every aspect of both the process of bringing the baby into the world and also in the family life. The love of a husband and wife is the foundation of the family, and I think that that should always be the case. I don't think it should. It's not even the children. The children are what make it a family. But before that, it was the divine union of two people. And I think that stability and the nurturing of that love and that connection is what allows a family to grow and to function optimally.
Do you have any advice for Orthodox men on how to support their wives, especially maybe like men who are dealing with their first child pre-birth?
Yeah. Just in the marriage in general, I think that women are like little plants. We want to be watered often. Maybe like a very needy little plant that needs to be placed in a window and given a little sprinkling instead of just like a giant dousing once a month when it's starting to droop and like really the plant is on the brink of death. I think like a regular little sprinkling of water, a regular moistening is much more healthy for this lady plant. So it's small regular reminders that really, I think, nourish a woman's heart.
So big grand gestures when...
Yes, yeah. Or, when she's like, I'm dying over here. Yeah. Show me some love. Yeah, it's the little things.
Yeah, because, all the hormones and emotions that a woman goes through during a pregnancy, one of the biggest ones is like how they feel about their image.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe like a reminder is like, hey, you're not fill in the blank, being a bad thing. Okay, yeah. That's good. This, I know this is probably almost indescribable, but I have to ask. As someone who has helped other women during childbirth, what was it like experiencing it for yourself? Now it's been almost 4 months to think back on.
Oh, I was so unprepared.
Okay.
And I thought I was prepared. I've seen, over 100 births. So I thought I was prepared. I thought my husband needed more preparation, because he was obviously nervous, to put it very mildly, nervous in the very best case, abjectly terrified at the worst points. Yeah, I thought he needed more preparation and education, but boy, I was not prepared. Seeing it from the outside versus experiencing it. Yeah, it's pretty much indescribable, but I think there's also a lot of mental preparation that's available to you, and that maybe I didn't take advantage of because on the one hand, I had seen so many women do it, so I knew I could do it. But yeah, I was not prepared for the intensity. It's genuinely the hardest thing I think a human can experience. I don't know, maybe like breaking every bone in your body would be worse, but this is a natural experience. It's crazy to me to think that like this is
something that's meant to happen. This is not something deeply wrong. This is designed to operate this way. But yeah, I guess kind of like I said I don't know if it was in the midwifery part of it, but I genuinely feel like I didn't do it. Like, I don't feel like, yeah, I did it. And now I can do anything.
Right.
You know, some women get that feeling because they just did something so incredible and tremendous. I feel like I didn't do it. Like, God must have done it. God must have acted and my body did it without me. But I am now genuinely convinced that anybody can do it. Like, I could do it. Anybody can do it.
So how did this experience impact your faith? Did it change how you see God and the Theotokos?
I know that I couldn't have done it without them, and without the fervent prayers of many to them while I was in labor. I had a circle of women who each had a candle that they lit when they were told that I went into labor. And they each prayed before that candle for me, and didn't blow it out until they got the news that I had the baby.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm thankful for them. I do believe that their prayers supported me through the experience. You know, though I didn't have them around me. I mean, that wouldn't way too many people. I didn't have them around me, but I had their prayers covering me at every moment. And I think my mother said this after the birth, that she credits St. Olga with the life of my baby, and of myself to a degree. I developed preeclampsia at the end of my pregnancy. We don't have to get into all that. It's just a condition of pregnancy, a disease that can be serious. And thank God I was still able to have the baby at home. But when the midwife saw the condition of the placenta, you know, the organ that sustains the baby until it's born, she came to me and she said, "You need to thank God that you didn't have this baby a week later, because he would not have made it another week."
Oh, wow.
He came a week early.
Okay.
And thank God for that.
Yeah.
Because that placenta would not have supported him. And when my mother saw the placenta, she said it was St. Olga.
Yeah.
Who sustained us. Yeah, because the condition of it just showed that it had deteriorated to the point that it wouldn't have supported the baby. And yeah, my body wasn't able to just support him. So thank God everything went smoothly and beautifully. But yeah, it's thanks to God that it did go that way.
Right.
So yeah, it's very humbling, you know? Yeah, because I guess I expected everything to kind of go beautifully and perfectly. You know, being a first-time mom, being, you know, familiar with birth and how things go in pregnancy, and being in good health going into pregnancy, I expect it to be, you know, a very low-maintenance, easy time. But I think that it's good that it wasn't entirely, because it forced me to depend on God and to lean on God and to be truly grateful, you know, that he allowed the miracle of my son to be here. It's not just it's not something I can take for granted, I guess. Maybe I would have been in danger of taking it for granted because I'm familiar with birth and with the birth world. You know, I see this miracle unfold so often, but I guess it's good that it kind of shook me out of that and jarred me, and made me realize that it's always a gift. It's never my own doing.
You know, talked to some after the birth of the child, and most of these parents do agree, like their prayer life changes pretty significantly. Some had a very, kind of strict prayer life prior to, and then now all of a sudden, instead of like a 20-minute prayer life, they have a 30-second prayer life. Has that been the same experience for you and your husband as well, or?
Okay, what's funny is that it's actually been the opposite, because I really struggled with discipline in prayer, which okay, yeah, I'm a cradle, whatever, I should have been doing this my whole life. But as an adult, yeah, I really struggled with discipline, with even the daily prayers. But since having my son, I want him to grow up praying. I want him to grow up in a family that prays together and is disciplined about it and does it regularly. So yeah, it's actually been a huge improvement in my prayer life. And yeah, all day, and I'm rocking him to sleep so many times, and there's nothing to do but pray. So it's almost like, well, may as well do evening prayers, Yeah, so it's funny because I know that that's typically how it goes, that it kind of shakes up your schedule. But it's actually been such a gift, and kind of, almost helping regulate it.
Yeah, I think it was Sunday you had him in his little carrier next to you at the chanter stand. I can see you kind of rocking it with your foot while you're singing the chants and stuff like that. And it was pretty funny. It was pretty adorable to see. Yeah. So, are there any particular prayers, traditions, blessings you found especially meaningful in pregnancy and labor?
There's a prayer. It's just the prayer of a woman with child, I guess, that I printed out, but I memorized it, pretty quickly after saying it every day. And so I prayed that every day of my pregnancy. Yeah, and I kind of missed it after I had the baby, because it worked its way into my morning prayers, and yeah, I'm sure I'll get to pray it again.
Yeah.
But that was really, it's really a lovely, meaningful prayer. It really covers a lot of the physical and spiritual and emotional aspects of pregnancy, and it's a prayer for the baby as well, obviously. Yeah, and that was really a beautiful way of connecting with my son, even before I knew he was my son.
So, considering my upbringing, when I first started attending this church, I was really surprised about how other children actually interact with other children. Like, I'll see like a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old carrying a 2-year-old. And, I've noticed this community has like a very interesting relationship like that, where children are actually helping the parents with the other children. My own upbringing was not even remotely similar to that, so it was that was probably one of the more shocking things. But now that you are a mother yourself, what has been the most surprising? Well, what's been the most surprising thing about becoming a mother, or just being a mother in general?
Okay, I'm sure this will come, but at this point, 3.5, almost 4 months in, I don't really, I'm not tired of my son. I don't feel like I want a break. And every now and then when I do get a break, he usually doesn't nap for very long, so I'm always holding him during naps. But every now and then he'll take a longer nap by himself, and I can actually, get some things done. And I miss him. It's good that I can actually get some things done so my house doesn't fall into utter disrepair. But I miss him when he's away from me, even when anybody else is holding him. I've had such a longing to be a mother my entire life. It's probably been my deepest and most constant desire. There are other things that I've wanted, like the nun thing when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
But this has been with me my entire life, and it's always been very, very deep, almost very visceral, like a longing to have a baby in my arms, like that physical feeling of yearning. And it's humbling and strange and surprising to have landed here, you know, that I have been granted the deepest desire of my heart, which kind of puts me in awe and fills me with tenderness at how much love God has for me, that he's given this to me. He's literally granted me the deepest desire of my heart. But I also have a little bit of like, well, now what? I'm only 23, you know? Like, what else do I do? Just have more babies, I guess. But I'm like, I didn't have a plan beyond this.
Yeah.
You know? Like, this has been part of my, I don't know, 10-year plan, 5-year plan, forever. And, my visions for my life didn't really extend beyond this. And now I'm here. So, I'm trying to enjoy it as much as I can. And it'll, you know, probably be in this season for a while, God willing, you know, as I have more children. And I'm sure it'll be different every time, and I'm sure it'll get harder as well. But, thank God.
What wisdom would you want to pass on to your own children, you know, about faith and family so far? You know, maybe in parts of it, you know, the struggle you had when you were younger, in your teens, and then into your early 20s. You know, obviously that can change, and that will change in 10 years, 20 years, whatever.
Well, I think that I want to emulate my parents in many ways, in the way that they raised us, with our life revolving around the church. And I know sometimes parents are wary of that because they don't want their children to feel forced to go to church, or they don't want it to become something that the child has a negative relationship with. But I think that, to simplify it, and put it in very basic terms, I think that I've adopted my parents' vision that the family life should revolve around the church. What my parents say is you can only have one first thing in your life. You can have several second things, you know, but only one first thing. And as a family, you have to decide what that's going to be, you know. Is it work? Is it school? You know, for a lot of families, it ends up having to be school. But when there's a conflict between maybe church and school, you know, what comes first? And I think that the proper orientation, I don't know if I should say for everybody. I don't know. I want that to be the orientation of our life, I suppose. I want that. That's our desire for our family. And I'm not quite sure, you know, how that will always look. I think it was, in some regards, a gift to have grown up as the daughter of a priest, because my dad didn't have another obligation besides the church, you know, which is a huge obligation. I mean, it's ridiculous, but he didn't have work calling him away, you know, so we could always be together as a family, at church. And I think that will be difficult for my family. And I saw that as a child with other families, that, you know, the parents' work often necessitated being away from church, and that will be painful. But I think the orientation of our life around the church will only be a blessing if we can achieve that. Yeah. Because the church it has the best catechesis. You know, you're taking your children, if you can, to the weekday services, the feast days, celebrating the feast days in your home, fasting together in your home. That teaches you about how to live in the church and how to have a relationship with God. And that kind of stuff is great for children, you know. We wear blue for dormition all together. Go pick out your blue dress. It's the little things that you incorporate into your daily life, I think, that enrich you so much.
I'd like to talk to you about Tom now, if that's okay. Okay. As a cradle-Orthodox married to a convert, what have you learned from your husband's fresh perspective on the faith?
I guess that
cradle-Orthodox aren't the only ones who can, like, eat, sleep, and breathe in the church. I guess. I don't know. And I think that sounds kind of presumptuous. Maybe. I don't know. But I guess he has so fully and entirely adopted the church as his way of life. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's done that, and I love it, and it calls me to do the same in new ways. Yeah.
So he's been pretty successful on shedding the baggage of his old life, so to speak.
I think so. Yeah, it took time. I'm sure it's still happening, and as he continues to live life, I'm sure it'll come up in new ways. But overall, yes, I would think I would say he's worked very hard to do that.
How has his journey shaped your marriage and spiritual life together? So instead of, say you're doing this on your own kind of thing, your prayers, your time. Now it's like, okay, now I'm sharing it with somebody else entirely. And maybe somebody else, and someone who grew up in an entirely different confession even.
I feel like just living with him and having the witness of his life constantly before my eyes, it tethers me to the church. Like, his connection to the church is also a tether for me because I'm connected to him, so deeply, that I guess his love for the church makes me love it in new ways. I would say that we still pray a lot individually, just because of our schedules, but yeah, I mean, I guess I had visions when we got married of us always praying together. And at one point I was talking to my spiritual father about it in confession. I was actually thought I was confessing, well, we really pray on our own. And he said, I mean, my wife and I pray on our own, as long as you're praying, and praying for each other, it doesn't necessarily have to be together. But I do hope that as we get further on into our family life and we're together more, especially in the evenings as a family, that we'll be able to pray together as a family. We usually, if we're praying together, it's in the evenings because, he gets up at ridiculous o'clock in the morning, and I'm just not quite that dedicated, I guess, to communal prayer to rise that early.
Yeah. To
greet the dawn.
Yeah. Your husband's preparing to join the diaconate. How has that calling shaped your home and your vision of family life?
When the idea was first brought up to us, we both said no. I walked out of the meeting. I said, nope, absolutely not. I think because of my experience already being a clergy family, far different from being a priest's wife, which is a uniquely burdened role, I think. But still, being a part of the clergy family growing up, I feel like it feels like a different relationship with the parish. And being a priest's wife is something I never hope to have to be. Yeah. I don't think that that's the direction of my life, and I pray that it's not, because I don't think I have the grace for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of what I was afraid of, I guess. But and my husband just didn't feel, I guess he didn't feel like he was worthy, and it'll also, it'll kind of upset, it'll make our life a bit more difficult, because he's already
working extreme hours and starting his company, which takes a lot of after hours work. And now we have a new baby, and so family time is in precious short supply. And now to be in school for 3 years, is going to make that difficult as well. So that's a sacrifice. But that wasn't why we were both inclined against it. But I think separately, we both came to the, I guess, where our mind is that if you've been asked to serve the church, kind of like, who are you to say no?
Yeah.
I guess. I think it can even be a form of pride in some cases to make that judgment about yourself, even that you're not worthy. To like think yourself so specially unworthy that it passes judgment on whoever's asked you. Anyway, and I really do feel like it's that simple. We've been asked to serve the church in this way, and I don't think that, I don't feel that we'd be blessed to say no.
Yeah.
I think that obviously challenges, sure, will come, but blessings too for saying yes. I was intimidated at the idea of being, I'm still the priest's daughter, but I'm an adult now and have my own place in the church, but I don't quite know what that is. I feel like I have a lot of uncertainty about what my role is in the parish. And I think that this will actually help, I will be offering up my husband to serve. A deacon is literally the servant. Mm-hmm. And I think that will be good. Yeah, I think that, in my decision making about it, I was thinking a lot about myself, selfishly. But I think that's partly because it feels like such an obvious thing for me, for my husband. Like I see him in that role. Yes, he's a deacon. Yes, that seems a very appropriate role for my husband. I didn't have any questions or any doubts about him serving in that role.
Right.
I guess. I just, feels like a given. Yes, this is the right thing for him.
Considering that your mother's been married to a priest for a while now, is there any advice that she's given you? Like as your role as a wife and a mother now, on what's going to be kind of expected of you, and then maybe how you are supposed to handle it in regards to being the wife of a clergyman?
It's too much to unpack, really. I mean, even the the evolution of her own role within the parish, and her relationship with the parishioners, I've seen firsthand. And I've seen the grace with which she's walked through a gauntlet. It truly is something I don't think I could ever aspire to emulate so gracefully. But I'm so thankful for the example. Yeah, I've seen the lessons she's learned. I think if any of the griefs or pains that she's experienced trickle down to being a deacon's wife, I think it'll be to a much, much smaller degree. And I hope that in my small way, I can be led by her.
Looking ahead, how do you hope to grow together as husband and wife in serving the church?
I pray that we'll come to truly not just call it a joy and a privilege, but truly feel it as a joy and a privilege and the greatest gift of our life. I think at the start of it, we're rather intimidated, by the
amount of work that's ahead of us, what that will look like for our family, is, because we're just beginning that as well. Yeah, but that's my prayer and my hope that that we will see it for the gift that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something that's life-giving and not life-draining, which I think it will be if we let it. I think it is somewhat up to us. I think, to make it beautiful.
Kind of want to wrap this up. I mean, there's still a good number of questions, but this part of the wrap up is like your opinions on the recent waves of converts, especially during COVID and after, and any advice you might have to offer. I've done this in the past 2 interviews as well, as you know. So, as a cradle-Orthodox, what have you observed in the lives of converts, both their strengths and struggles?
I think that in recent years, which is also, I guess I've gotten to know converts better over the recent years than maybe I had before, just because I was a young adult, experiencing it and, growing close with the converts. I may not have known the others so personally. In the years before, I guess, like the pandemic wave. I think what I see, maybe as a struggle, something that I've seen sometimes is converts coming into the church because of an ideology or, a political leaning that they think is reflected in the church and in the teachings of the church. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's constructive. And church doesn't fit within anything like that. And so they bring with them the assumption that everybody in the church must be of this political leaning, or this is the moral political opinion to hold.
Okay.
And a strength that I see, and there are far more strengths, I think, than struggles, in the recent ways of converts, is a true faithfulness. I think that, over my lifetime, what I've seen of converts is that sometimes it can be difficult for them to adjust to the rhythm of the church, because most people come into the church as adults and they have an established life and an established rhythm and cycle to their life. And the church calls us into hers.
Yeah.
And that can be hard to adjust to. The fasts, the feasts, the not just going to church on Sundays, with the weekday services throughout the week, the extra services during Lent and the other fasts, the feasts that fall on weekdays. It's such a joy to see the church full on those occasions.
Yeah.
And it's full of converts.
Speaking of, experience, do you see differences between how cradle-Orthodox and converts experience the church?
I think so. And there are different types of converts and different types of cradles. And we have our weaknesses. I think across the entire Orthodox Church in the United States, I think that cradle-Orthodox Christians tend to fall away in their youth. I think that particularly in ethnic parishes where to be Orthodox really means to be Greek or to be Arab. It's tied up in their link to their culture, rather than it being their faith. And so they grow up, not learning much, or not understanding the liturgy even, because it's in a language that they maybe understand but don't speak, or don't speak very well, or only hear from their grandmother. And so they grow up and
understandably have nothing to cling to.
Yeah.
So I think, I think that's a somewhat typical pattern. Sorry, what was your question? Can't remember what I'm saying.
How the cradle and converts experience church itself.
Yeah. Anyway, and then, God willing, this cradle-Orthodox Christian who's fallen away will come back and rediscover the faith for themselves. And then the converts can, as I said before, struggle with adopting the rhythm, and also struggle with the idea that just the sheer overwhelming amount of knowledge there is to gain about the church, and and which church fathers to read, and what if they have conflicting things to say with one another, and who do I trust, and how far do I obey my spiritual father, and online. I think online is the greatest pitfall of the convert. I think there's very little to be gained from online orthodoxy. I mean, okay, I say that, but then also it's led so many people to the church.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have mixed feelings, but I have more negative feelings, I think, about orthodoxy online.
In my experience, especially because of COVID, like the majority, like I don't want to say majority, but obviously because COVID restricted a lot of people, orthodoxy had a major boost because of online presence.
Yeah,
But
it did.
The problem with that as well is there was no real restriction on content. And so that's why you get people who, maybe they say orthodoxy and communism work hand in hand. And actually, they're complementary to each other. Or on the other side, in regards to a certain other ideology from the 40s. But then at the same time, you get one, in my personal opinion, one of the greatest teachers, even though he would hate for me to say this. The majority of his content is online. His name is Father Cosmas down in Australia. His YouTube channel, Orthodox Talks, I mean, they're very thorough and very in-depth lectures that, range from 2 to 5 hours long, about the lives of the saints, or about the consequences of unforgiveness, and, life after death, near-death experiences. Like, he covers so many topics. The man was basically my catechizer, and I've never met him. It's just because his YouTube channel happened to exist. And so people give flack to a certain number of online Orthodox creators. And we can't deny that they have had an impact, in some manner very positive, in another manner very negative. And I guess it really just comes down to personal discernment on what's beneficial and what isn't. So, like for example, in this, anybody listening, and I have no qualms against Jay Dyer. Some of his theological talks are very, very good, but people really love the entertainment of watching him debate. And so they think that they have to become debate bros to be Orthodox. And so that turns into debating people at your local parish and causing a whole bunch of strife. So I don't really, personally, I don't feel the need to listen to Jay Dyer that much, because I have priests that I trust that I can listen to. And he even says it. I'm not a spiritual father. Don't take spiritual advice from me. I just go through the patristics and I teach the historical side of the Orthodox faith and the philosophical side of things. But that's not for everybody, and I don't think that's an issue. So I think really it comes down to, obviously, the more experienced you are, the more discernment you may have in regards to who you listen to. But just because they're online and they claim to be Orthodox doesn't mean that they're Orthodox and that you should take it as the gospel truth.
Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't say that it's overwhelmingly negative. There is an incredible benefit to the access to Orthodox content that we have. Yeah, and that's great. There's so much that I wouldn't be exposed to because I'm not reading this stuff. You know, if I didn't come across it, or if, like Adam didn't share it online. I really do benefit from that stuff. That's true. And like you said, there's so many priests talking and homilies that get shared now, and live streams of the services. That's true. That is all, something that I'm definitely thankful for and definitely see the benefit in. I don't know if I don't think we can rely on personal discernment.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't think that it should be up to us entirely. I mean, obviously, it's good to be in tune with your conscience, and if your conscience is directing you that some content is, better or worse for you, then you should absolutely listen to that. But I think that the guidance of our priests is ultimately going to be better for us than our own feeble attempts at making decisions for ourselves.
Yeah, no, of course. I guess part of it also, I see some of these online creators as being like a kind of like a foot in, but like once you're in the church, once you're actively going to the services, that's what your main focus should be on.
Yeah,
totally. If you have to choose between listening to a 2-hour live stream or going to a evening service, obviously your evening service should be your main priority.
Please.
So.
Yeah. But and that's another thing, the exposure, I mean, Orthodoxy is still tiny in the U.S. Yeah. I can't believe even how small it is because of how much more it has entered into the cultural consciousness than it was before. I guess since around 2020, or maybe it was starting to happen before that. It's much more. So many more people have been exposed to Orthodoxy, even though we're still so tiny because of its online presence. Yeah, so that is another awesome thing.
If you could speak directly to a convert listening in right now, what words would you want to leave with them?
I remember something my mother said. She was chrismated in her 20s. The night before her chrismation, she was speaking to her spiritual father, who was her godfather also, who chrismated her. And she was kind of freaking out a little. She was afraid. She thought she may not be ready to be chrismated because she said, I don't know how I feel about, like, for example, maybe the Theotokos or praying to the saints, common things that converts stumble over. She said, I'm not sure that I still have questions. I still have questions. I don't know how I feel about a few things. And he said to her, do you trust that the church has the answer? And she said, yes, I do. And he said, that's good enough for me. And I think that's really compelling, for what I imagine the experience of a convert to be, which, obviously I don't know for myself, but there is always a lot to learn. You'll likely always have questions. And I guess you don't have to come to a perfect understanding and be able to clearly defend everything that the church teaches. If you are at the point where you can rely on the church, you can trust the church, you know that she has the answers, then I think you'll be okay. The church can't fit into your head.
Yeah.
You have to fit into it. Into her.
Have you ever heard this saying, cradle-Orthodox have patience and wisdom, but converts have zeal and knowledge.
From you.
Yeah? Oh, my bad. I didn't know I repeated myself. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's fairly accurate?
I don't feel that I really have patience or wisdom, I guess. But yeah, I like that. I do. I like that. It appeals to the strengths of us both. And I've definitely been enriched and strengthened by the zeal and knowledge in my convert friends.
So how do you suggest converts gain the patience and wisdom side of things?
Listen more than you talk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a hard one. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, right?
Yeah, for me, yeah. We come across this almost, new, very foreign feeling faith. This like unfelt fire just like engulfs us from the inside, and we just want to shout about it from the rooftops, but we're told we're not supposed to do that. We want to tell everybody we can, but we're also warned, like, hey, they might not accept it, and then you might stumble, you might get angry, you might cause them to lose interest because of your reaction, so on and so forth. And so it's, it's really true when, when they say, well, if you ask God to give you patience, he's going to give you struggles to make you be patient through. And so it's like I feel like, in my own experience and people I know, trying to gain that patience is something, especially here and especially in the modern world, we're really not used to, because we're so instant gratification, built now, or become so prone to be. So we want to be in the altar, like, especially men, some of us men were like, we want to be in the altar like tomorrow. And it's like, dude, this is your second liturgy. It's like slowly roll. And it's like, we want to be a deacon next year. And it's like, some people, they think they want to be a deacon and it takes them 10 years to get there, man. Like,
Yeah.
do you think cradles need to try to put in some more work about maybe gaining a little more zeal or a little more knowledge? Because some of these converts, they come in, they know all this, like Saint Patristics this. And,
Yes. Gosh, it's embarrassing. And it's, yeah, absolutely. I think that we so easily fall into apathy. I think we can be so apathetic, about our faith and take it for granted. Yeah, I think that can be one of our biggest pitfalls. And that's why God allows us to be blessed with converts. I mean, for the furtherance of the church, of course, and, hopefully all of our mutual salvation. But yeah, to constantly enervate us. Yeah, and to put us to shame, rightly so. A little bit. I think it can be healthily shameful, to realize how little you know about the church.
Looking back across everything we've talked about, your early life, chanting, midwifery, marriage and motherhood, and now your observations on converts, what ties it all together for you?
To some degree, these are all things that I didn't expect to be a part of my life. I never felt like I should be at the chanter stand. Ever wanted to be. I didn't know that I was going to be a midwife. It wasn't where I thought my life was headed for quite a while. And the deepest desire of my heart was always to be a mother, but it almost at some points in my life, it felt too good to be true. Like I want this so much, therefore I probably can't have it. And also there was a time when I thought that I shouldn't have children because I should, go save the world instead. When there's so much suffering in the world, I almost felt like it would be too much joy, I guess, for me. I'd be hoarding the joy, to have been given such a beautiful life and then to be given what I saw as the deepest joy, just to be a mother.
Yeah.
So I didn't
expect any of these facets of my life. Yeah, all I can conclude is God must love me.
Glory to God. Thank you for your time and the wisdom you've shared with us. Well, I know you don't want to claim it as such, but experiences. There are a number of us converts who do appreciate what cradles have to share with us, which is the whole point of this project. Your stories and reflections remind us that the life of the church is not something abstract. It's lived out in the home, in the parish, and in the everyday joys and struggles of Christian life. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarani.
As we close, I hope what has been shared here encourages you all to see orthodoxy as something living and personal. Whether you grew up in the church or if you came to it later, God meets us where we are and calls us deeper. The beauty of our faith isn't only in the services or traditions, but in the way it shapes our daily lives, in birth and family, in prayer and joy, and even in struggle. If you are a convert, don't be afraid to take your time and steadily grow. As St. Eugene Popovich says, orthodoxy is the true home for every man. A convert does not find something foreign, but rather his own soul's native land. So even though orthodoxy may be new to us, and being obedient to the church's guidelines is strange at first, if we can accept that our ego is our main obstacle to conquer, we can rise above every struggle. And if you are a cradle, please be patient with us, whether we are hot-headed zealots or slow to learn. And don't take for granted the treasure you've been given. As St. Paisios the Athonite says, those who have been raised Orthodox from birth should not take this as a small thing. They must guard this inheritance with gratitude, lest it be lost. All of us together make up the body of Christ, and all of us have something to offer. May God bless you and strengthen you as you continue on the path. Until next time, stay steadfast, stay humble, and thank you for joining us.